Relationship issues?
Relationship talk
On 702.
So, on our relationship feature this morning, we are discussing the grey divorce. Have you ever heard of the grey divorce phenomenon? The late life divorce? The people who divorce after 50? We often assume that couples who have weathered about 20, 30, or even 40 years of marriage are safe, right? But that's not really the case all the time. There are couples who, even after having spent nearly half of their lives together, can decide to end the relationship. And as we age, of course, there are a lot of challenges that life throws at us. There are a lot of changes that happen as well. And one such challenge is the increasing worldwide for many people over 50 years old to divorce. So navigating this kind of divorce can be difficult. In fact, just navigating a normal divorce is difficult. But grey divorce can be more complex than your normal divorce at a younger age due to accumulated assets, due to retirement accounts, or we're talking now potential health issues. And yes, one would think that divorce in couples over the age of 50 who have been together for years would not be as common as the younger couples, but it is. Grey divorce is on the rise, and the reasons behind it are very complex and varied. In fact, statistics suggest that factors like empty nest syndrome, when children are leaving, now they're going to university or they're getting married, starting their own families, and you're left at home with your partner. That emptiness syndrome can also contribute, shifting priorities, financial problems, reduced stigma surrounding divorce. That's also helping play a role. So, and I want to know, I would like you to share your experiences with us. I'd like you to give us a call on 011-883-0702. You can call us right now or send us a WhatsApp voice note on 072-7021-702. Are you someone that divorced when they were over 50 or when they were in their late 40s? But when you were over 50 and you decided to divorce, and what did that mean? Yeah? I want you to share that experience with us. Or are you someone who is in their, you're over 50 and you are trying to decide whether or not this is the way to go, but you're worried because you're thinking, but I've spent half of my life with this person. Why would I leave them? Like, what are the considerations that you make at that age before you decide to walk away from marriage? Or maybe for you, peace is more important. Maybe the marriage has not been peaceful for the last 40, 30, whatever, 25 years. And you've decided, I'd like to spend the last days, last years of my life at least being happy. What have been your considerations to stay or to walk away from a marriage or from a relationship when you've been together for that long? Give us a call, 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. Dudu Nhlabathi-Madonsela is a relationship coach who's going to guide us through this conversation. Dudu, how are you?
Morning, how are you? Is it still morning?
Morning.
We need to check. How are you?
It's still morning. I'm good, but as you can hear, my English bundles are also running low.
Oh, yeah.
The whole year I've been using them. So from next week, Jay, on the show, just bear with me.
Your English will be
English.
Okay.
Blind. Okay, so the subject we're discussing today, grey divorce, the grey divorce phenomenon. How do we define grey divorce, and why is it becoming such a globally recognized trend? I mean, honestly, and I know it's a bit of a toxic mindset, but when people have been together for like 35 years, what are you doing walking away?
And weirdly enough, the average of the grey divorcees, their marriage has been around for more than 30 years. So that's the average.
Guy.
Listen, I do understand them. So, but let's start with the definition, right? So the definition is usually people who are over the age of 50 and then deciding to get divorced. And the reason why they call it the grey divorce is because usually now you have grey hairs, right? And, if you peruse a lot of articles, so this is really a new term and there's not a lot that's written around it, right? And it's still written from an observation perspective, but people are actually not getting to the core of the matter. So from an observation perspective, they say it's the empty nest syndrome. When the kids leave the house, they cite other issues is around finances.
Accumulated assets.
Yeah, and then they also cite people having grown apart. So usually those are the main things. And then also infidelity also features a lot in terms of the reasons why people
Infidelity go 55.
But like if old age homes are managing STDs, like you don't know that. That's the biggest problem in old age homes is to manage STDs. So imagine if that is a pandemic in old age homes. There are people now, they are jollaring like we jolla, but a lot of people are citing these reasons because it's from an observation perspective. But actually, if you go deeper into why you're observing great divorces, there's actually two main reasons. The first reason is that if you look at a lot of the divorcees in that age category, they're boomers. And these are boomers who got married in the context of the world that they were getting married to, or they were getting married. It was the right thing to do. I got married because I had kids. It was the natural progression based on where I was in life. You know, my mom used to say, I don't expect you to get married in your 20s. I got married at 24 because there was nothing else to do. I couldn't travel the world without a husband. So the most logical thing was to get myself a husband. So what happens is that now we live in a world whereby, first thing, divorce has been normalized, right? It's no longer frowned upon, or taboo and so forth. And what is interesting when you now start getting into the core reason, and this is observed across all age groups, is that people are seeking more and more quality relationships. So what you're finding with the younger generation, women are prioritizing finding a quality partner. It's not that people are no longer believing in marriage or they're delaying marriage. But what people are saying is that I will delay the process of finding a quality partner so that I end up in a quality relationship. So the women are delaying that process and making sure that they pick the right partner. The men are looking and saying, I also want to attract a quality human being. And what qualities should I work upon as an individual in order for me to be able to attract a quality partner? So we're both seeking the same things, and you see it across age groups. Now, what happens now in the 50s is that because of medical innovation, because of the fact that we're living longer, and we're also living longer with vitality. Now somebody says, I actually have another 20 to 30 years of actually enjoying life.
Yeah.
And you look at this person that you're with, you no longer have the obligation to co-parent with this person. Your kids have left the house and so
old
forth.
enough.
And now you're looking and you're like, I got married because I had to get married. I made this girl pregnant, or because of the fact that...
it was an arranged marriage.
It was arranged marriage. And now society is more accepting of me seeking fulfillment. And this is the observation now that you're seeing, where people over 50 are saying, actually, I still have the energy to enjoy another relationship.
But I love it for them, because why must you spend the last 20 years of your life miserable?
Exactly.
If that's what you've done for the last 35 years of marriage, and of course not everything has been bad, but you know at your core that is not the person you would have chosen had the circumstances not dictated. Then why not go a different path? But because at that point there's just a lot that there's a lot at risk. I mean, we spoke about accumulated assets, retirement. Hongata. So do you find that they're willing to that matters less than their happiness?
No, actually,
living their life?
It's a big problem amongst them. And simply because they come from an era where they got married in community of property.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. And also what you find is that from an income inequality gap, the gap is much more larger between the male and the female in that particular generation. And maybe some females took time to look after their kids, so they deprioritized their careers, right? And also they didn't have a social structure back then to be able to juggle motherhood and a career. Not that we can. We're trying. But at least I think the conditions are a little bit better than 50 years ago or something like that. So what happens is that the biggest concern right now is the splitting of assets, and who is at a disadvantage when you split assets. And when you actually bring it to the South African context, what is quite interesting is that especially if you look in the South African context whereby a lot of males have lost their jobs, and then you have female-led households, even though there is a husband. And there's the whole issue of the pension fund. that needs to be split between them, right? And it's a big issue. It really is. So it does place, especially women, at a disadvantage.
I do want to ask you at some point about the advice you have for someone who's listening to us who is graying, whether they're like late in their 40s or early 50s or like just generally over 50, who are thinking, I'm not happy, but I'm scared to actually tell him, or I'm scared to tell her. How do you even begin to broach that subject? Like, you've known me more than you've known all these kids that you appreciate, or that you love, that you're obsessed with. And now you must sit me down and say, this is not working. What do you mean? It's been 35 years, it's been 20 years, it's been 15 years. That's what I want us to talk about in a moment. But let's listen to some WhatsApp voice notes coming through on 011-883-0702. That is the number you can dial. But the WhatsApps are coming on 072-702-1702. Share your experience with us. Are you currently considering or going through a grey divorce? Are you, in your late 40s or in your 50s? Because it's over 50s really that we're relating to. But if you're in your late 40s and this is a consideration you've made and you've thought, we've been here for too long, but I want to do this. Like, what's been your experience like? Have you taken the decision to divorce? What was it like? And what were your considerations? Or maybe you've decided to stay. Maybe you're like, I'm over 50. Yes, I'm unhappy. But where do I go? I've decided that this is the cross I'm going to carry until I die. Why have you decided to stay and why have you decided to leave? Send us a WhatsApp or give us a call.
Good morning, Clement. Sorry, I would like to be anonymous. That's exactly what I did. At 49, I divorced. And but what I did is, we did not sell the house because I got 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls. The other 2, a boy and a girl, they are fine, doing well, educated. The last other 2, one have just finished school, the other one is going on matric next year, doing well at school as well. I'm still looking after them. And I left the house with their mother, okay? And I'm happy. I don't want to get married again. No, sorry. I just want to live my life. And yeah, life is good on my side.
That's interesting. How old are you now, Anonymous? Are you, because you divorced at the age of 49. I'm imagining in your 50s now. But that's fascinating to hear. Like, it's very seldom that you'll hear people over 50 who say, I don't want to get married again. I'm actually okay as a single man. Because for some reason, there's shame associated with dying alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of people end up, and I think pressure, time.
Yeah.
You end up just being with people and just sticking it out because I don't want to die alone. How many times do we say that?
I don't think it's particularly shame. So I think what you find, and especially this is my observation when it comes to income groups, the lower the income group a man, the more likely he's going to get married quite quickly after a divorce or the death of his wife, right?
The lower his income.
The lower his income.
Okay.
Because the idea of having somebody to look after you, it means that you can't hire the other resources to look after you. But the higher the income, where you don't need a cook. You can get yourself a cook. You can get a chef. You can Uber Eats and so forth. You can get a helper. You can do all these other things in life.
That wives traditionally come with.
So the idea of the fact that there's no one to look after me in my elderly years is less a concern. And I find that a lot of guys who have high incomes and are divorced take their time. They actually even seek more companionship than are more likely to get married.
I've picked that up, more companionship, a friend.
Yeah, sometimes they start with the slay queens a bit and then get out of their system. And then
But even the 70-year-olds, like 80, they're just going to have friends.
Exactly.
Like, especially like from my observation, what I've seen, like in the neighborhoods or the conversations I have, I've picked up that you'll see an 80-year-old woman with this 85-year-old man, and they're like, yeah, this is my partner.
Yes.
And it's in a sense of, we actually met when we were 78.
Yeah.
And we're companionship.
Yeah, because I think also the criteria now of choosing a partner, when you have the resources to look after yourself, is very, very different.
Yeah.
Unlike the criteria that you're using to look for a partner, because this is your retirement plan, this is the night nurse you're going to need when you're sick later in your life, is very, very different. So, and I find that when I observe men, the higher the income a guy has, the less likely he's going to rush into getting a wife.
Interesting. I have an uncle who is probably in his late 70s, and he still lives alone. Like, he doesn't have kids. You know, he's tried marriages here and there, but
he's tried marriages.
Yeah, like two, I think. He got one, and then it didn't work out. Got another wife, didn't work out, and I think probably at 55 or 60, he gave up, and he seems happier than the other uncles who you could argue are in marriages. Because he's a happy man.
He's honoring himself. Right?
Yeah, I think so.
Some people are not meant for marriage, but there are some people whereby, even if they don't seek marriage afterwards, but they are companionship people. And I think what happens is that from a culture perspective, I think people have to understand why marriage was valued, right? And I'm still a big believer in marriage, but I think that the definition of what makes a happy marriage is very different from the definition of what made a happy marriage then. And I'm looking for the English word for it. But a lot of the time back then, marriage was designed to bring about structure, order in your life, and as a woman, also financial stability. That's what basically marriage meant. And I think now there's a lot of people where they no longer need that, right? So if you select a partner just based on that, and then maybe you never really fall in love with a partner, or both of you never evolve to meet each other at a point where you really enjoy each other's company. Later in life, when the criteria you use is no longer applicable, you no longer live by those values, you no longer need the things that you needed back then. If you haven't found each other with your partner at a certain point, you're going to struggle. Even if you are married for 50 years, that marriage is not going to be fulfilling because of the fact that it hasn't evolved with your particular needs. So what you might be finding is that you might be finding people who are married for 50 years, but because the marriage didn't evolve with their needs. And when you look at a lot of the articles that are written around great divorce, especially when people have grown apart, you're finding that what they used as a selection criteria back then is very different. Like, somebody has now 10 times more money, does not really need somebody who's going to wash their clothes and so forth. They need more from a partner, but they can't get that because, that partner is not that person. It wasn't intended, like, they didn't enter the marriage with an intention to provide that value. That value was, I'm going to bear you kids and I'm going to cook for you.
I mean, what you're telling us then is, be very intentional about the people you marry, because you've got to survive the evolution of humanity and society, because things are going to change. And in 50 years' time, am I going to be happy with you, Dudu, that I got married with in 2021?
Exactly. But listen, even though you become intentional, you're intentional based on your current value system.
And the values, they change. Let's on. Another person on the WhatsApp line says, Clement, I've decided to leave my marriage at the age of 51, and we were married for only 4 years.
Was that a second marriage? Because they fail more than first marriage.
The first, or we were married for 4 years, but she took all of my 50% pension fund for the work that I did 29 years ago. And,
I'm not sure what race this person is, and this is the reason why I mentioned this. I find that because remember, pre-1994, our parents came together, they didn't have much asset. Whatever poverty we were in, we were poor together. And we didn't learn as black people how to negotiate our marriages in terms of the contracts very well. And what you find with a lot of black people is they enter marriages. Because, for example, if he's 51, it means he got married at 46, 47. And you got married in community of property. That was a really big risk, right? But you might find that is because he wasn't educated enough with the contractual system of marriages and the implication that it will have in his life. Like, now, you've worked so hard and probably the person is taking half of your life's savings and so forth.
Sure.
And that's what you're finding. And I urge people to educate themselves. Yes, there's a decision around you love this person, but there's also a practical decision, especially if you're coming in with kids.
Yeah, there's consequences here.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. I mean, you've been married for 4 years and she's gone, like 50%. Yeah, and I mean, we don't have context. Maybe these people have been together for longer, but decided to marry at a particular time. More of your calls and your WhatsApps. Have you considered, are you considering, or are you going through a grey divorce? Is it something that you have done? Have you gotten divorced after 50? How did that look like to you? How did you navigate that? Have you decided to stay even when you're not happy, to avoid a grey divorce? And what are the considerations for you? And I'd like to hear from also the young couples as well, even if you're not over 50. Like, how intentional are you about, I mean, future-proofing, if there's even such, your marriage, so that even when you're 50, when you're 60, when you're 70, in some way you're able to have been evolved with your partner, and you are not getting to a point where you experience a grey divorce. Give us a call on 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. It's
Relationship issues
Relationship Talk.
on 702.
23 minutes before 12 o'clock. We're talking about the grey divorce phenomenon on our relationship feature this morning with Dudu Nhlabathi-Madonsela, who's a relationship coach. And we're taking your experiences. If you've got an experience to share with us, maybe this is something you have experienced. You divorced after 50. Maybe you're considering it. Maybe you decided to stay to avoid a grey divorce. Why? What is behind your considerations? You can call us or send us a WhatsApp voice note. In fact, speaking of WhatsApps, a text that came through earlier says, "Hi Clement, I want to remarry. Since I got divorced after an 18-year marriage, I'm happy with my current companion, but still hurt because someone belittled me because of her new work and educational qualifications. So it's risky taking a woman to school sometimes." In fact, that's a message there from Benny in Pretoria. It's not giving us a lot of context, but what I'm getting here is Benny seems to have an issue with a woman that he has taken to school. And then now you either have to find yourself divorcing that person and you think, oh my God, all of that investment. And isn't that the case, Dudu, especially with past relationships? Like if there was a man who had resources, normally they would take their wife to school. Not all cases, like more liberal.
Yeah.
Like liberal, and I use that word loosely, would decide, okay, let me take you to get some skills.
Yeah.
And now when you have to divorce, they look at you now as an investment. Like, I invested in you. There's a reason I took you there.
Yeah, and I think that investment then translates into ownership, right? So, and I think also how they show up in relationships, because usually if somebody has that attitude, not to say all men who take their women to school have that attitude, but if I have the attitude that I invested in you and you are forever grateful to me, right? Then I wonder if that person is able to emotionally show up as required in the relationship, or they think that the fact that I'm a provider is enough for me to show up in a relationship. I mean, if you look at the great divorce phenomenon, one of the things that's always shocking is how the kids receive it, because most of the time the kids are like, but he's such a great father. And I always say, just because somebody's a great father doesn't mean that he's a great husband. And just coming back to the person who invests, if you lead from a place of, I financially look after the family and I've made sure that my family is fed and so forth, and you emotionally neglected your wife, I think it does come as a surprise later in life when she says, I'm not happy. Yes, I have this big house and, you know, my kids are all educated, but I'm not happy. And it becomes a shock to a system, and they see it as betrayal, but they actually forget that when you have to invest in a relationship, it's not only about finances. It's so many things that you need to actually pour into that relationship for that relationship to work.
So there's another message here that says, this is anonymous. It says, "Hi Clement, I want to get divorced. I have more than 30 years with my husband. The problem is he is controlled by his 2 divorcee sisters." Wow, divorcee
How old is this
sisters.
man?
So, but also, why not just sisters?
No, because she's like trying to paint the picture. From the previous
From the
relationship.
previous.
Yeah.
So the message says, I want to get a divorce. I have more than 30 years with my husband. The problem is he's controlled by his 2 divorcee sisters since he's the last born, and he provides for them more than his kids. We have 3 sons. So I asked him about his family last year, and he responded that his family comes first. This is from his sister's side.
Yes.
They even took our property without engaging me. I'm 51 now. I want a divorce. I can see we're not going anywhere with this marriage.
And I think, you know what, and you can sense a bit of like this hurt and anger, right? In the tone of, and it's quite fair, right? Because, I mean, first thing, married for 30 years, some of the teething issues around getting your family to find their place and the fact that I have a new family, those things should have been at the
fighting
highest.
about that after 30 years of marriage?
The fact that those teething issues have not been addressed is either one, there's 2 things. She stayed in that marriage for too long, and the man is also not willing to come to the party, the way in which she describes it, right? And I think, you know, the main thing I find with a lot of divorced people who are divorcing, and you see it across all age groups, especially women, is that they don't have a plan. Because we become so emotional. Usually we divorce because he's been cheating on us, or you know what, I can't stomach this behavior, that we're so emotional and we step out of marriages without the plan of what is next. And then that's the reason why some people, divorces set them years back in terms of financially, because of the fact that they don't have a plan. And I guess my advice to this lady is that after 30 years of marriage, if he's not willing to address this issue, chances that he's not going to change.
He's
right?
never going to do it.
Yeah. So, and if in your heart to heart you feel like stepping away from the marriage is the thing that you need to do, and you are at peace with it, then do what your heart tells you. But also because of the fact that, because the way she describes it is that he has not come through financially full with the family like he was expected to, and I don't know to what extent she bears the grunt of that financial burden. But she also just needs to, before she steps out, go and consult a lawyer and understand what does that mean and what is the best way to go about it in such a way that you mitigate the risk of losing a lot of money like people have.
Yeah, so someone on Twitter indicated that, Clement, for me, it's the emptiness syndrome. I realized when my kids, all of them left and went to university, that we've all existed here in this marriage for the kids. Is that something that happens a lot, where the kids move out and now you are exposed as a couple? Or actually, you guys have never really had a life as a couple. Because for some reason, I mean, people get married and as soon as kids come, the attention...
And they keep you busy. They make you forget. Like, you know, we were actually laughing with my husband yesterday because our kids at Gogo's, right? And I was like, we actually miss these people, you know? And I've got small little people, so they still terrorize the hell out of us, right? But I was like, we actually miss these people. But I think and this is what we've done with my husband. We've always been deliberate about spending time together.
Outside of the kids.
Outside the kids. So like, for example, on a normal school term, twice a month, because both the Gogos are still alive, they would go to the Gogos' house, ship them with the nannies and stuff like that. And we'd have the whole weekend to connect, right? Because we realized that, you know, it is important to maintain this relationship and this connection and find things to do together. And I think what happens is with a lot of people is that you center, and not deliberately, like you just wake up one day and your life is centered because this person is so needy. You've got this little person who's so needy and your life is centered around this particular person. Come back from work and come on, Dudu's screaming, do your come on. Daddy comes in, he's coming into chaos. Very little time to actually connect with each other. And if you're not making that deliberate, one day you're going to wake up and you're going to wake up next to a stranger. And you would have drifted so far apart that it would be very difficult to come back together. And I think also what we must consider is that after a certain age, how much energy to invest in things. Like, for example, you know, when a woman, like I look at my friends who are in their 40s, right? Dating is also complex for them, not only because the dating pool looks the way it does, because they don't just have energy to be spontaneous. Somebody called me at 7, let's go out, let's go and have coffee and so forth and whatever. You're so set in your routine and your ways and so forth. Now you're 55 The kids are out of the house, and now for me to connect with this person, imago therapy, we must go running together. Hey, the effort, you know, and you're like, is it really worth it?
So what tips then do you have for, because I think this conversation must be also to help couples who can avoid that grey divorce.
Yeah.
So, and now to this point that, you know, someone who says, now I realize when the kids are gone, here there's no love anymore.
Yeah.
Like, Raborana, what are we going to do together? So what advice do you have for younger couples or younger married couples who, you know, are getting there where they're going to be 50, they're going to get there when they're over 40, and they want to still have, even when the kids are gone, have some kind of relationship? Do you do dates once a month? Because also, Linako with young kids, it's exhausting and you've got to work. Sometimes there's just no time for that.
Do you know, I find that when you guys have common interests or you have a common hobby, it doesn't feel like you're planning this, right? So if for example, you guys run and there's a race, like automatically you're not going to a race, and after a race, you're probably going to have lunch and so forth. It doesn't feel like it's planned, you know? So I always find that, you know, you need to be deliberate. You need to sit down with your partner and say, like what, and sometimes it's a trial and error. I mean, I once took my husband to Kizomba Shem, the poor man, for a while.
Kizomba.
Is that Kizomba, that dancing, yako Mozambique, you know.
Is it therapeutic or that's just...
No, it was for us to connect, right?
Oh, just
you know, like, yeah. And we did a couple of things until we realized, Ratela house music. So,
Zumba, not gonna help.
let's go and see Black Coffee and party with the Gen Zs. It's fine. But through that trial and error, we found what is of interest to us, you know, at this particular age. So I think be deliberate. The other thing is that sometimes in marriages, you know, these issues that you sit with for a very long time, it might not be the biggest thing in your marriage, but it brews over time and over time and over time. And if you listen, especially when you listen to a lot of women over 50 and they talk about why they're divorcing their husbands, there's a lot of resentment. And it can 20 years ago, or an ongoing behavior that was not addressed. Don't sit on behavior. Don't sit on things that are unaddressed, because what happens is that the more your kids get older, they become a little bit independent and they need less of you. And then that space for that void in that house becomes very evident. And if that void is occupied by a big elephant in the room, Hashem, Nelly the elephant, utomobona every single day, right? So what you want to do is that you don't want to get to the point where the issue is so big, and then the day your last born says, out, I'm going to your university, and now you're sitting with this big issue. And, you know, it's very hard now to address this issue because it's just become ginormous and you don't know how to address it. So for me, I think those are the two things. Be deliberate. And also, if there are issues in your marriages, don't sit for years on those issues. Address them.
Yeah. Well, is it fine to be also besties? Because some people get concerned that if we do everything together, like as a young couple, like, are we ever going to get to a point where we have our own lives? And what if, as we evolve, we get to a point where I don't want to play golf with you every single week anymore, but I want to do it with other friends, and maybe with you once a month or once every second month. But you've already started a structure for years, let's say 10 years, ready bestie, house music, Robana black coffee together, you know, let's go to this country. But this time around, we've evolved to a point where I actually want to watch black coffee with my friends.
Yeah.
No longer with you. Not because there's anything wrong, but because I'm getting
I
can't breathe anymore within just the space of us.
I think that's a two-part question. Is it okay to be besties? I think when couples like each other, you're naturally going to become besties. You like spending time with each other. You like being around. You like similar things and so forth. So you're going to spend a lot of time together. Should you have a balance in terms of different people in your relationship, in your life that fulfill different parts of you? I think you should. I think the whole idea of placing your attention on one person and expecting them to come through like everybody else. Like, for example, there are things my husband won't understand that I'd have to call my friend and be like, actually, you know, this and this and this happened, or did you watch this Netflix, what, or something like that. Which, you know, and I think that having a couple of people that surround you and you fill their cup and they also fill your cup, I think it's quite healthy, and it makes you a diverse and interesting person. Because also, remember, in a relationship, as much as Yes, this person knows you when you don't have makeup on and so forth, but you're still a sexual being and they need to be attracted to you, right? And having a life of your own outside just him or her also makes you an interesting person. So I would encourage you to do that. And I think in terms of people then going through a process of saying, and you find this not only with partners where you've defined your identity so much as a mom, and then you want to explore an identity beyond that. And as a mom, you were doing pickups and stuff like that and screaming at people, or you were always with your partner where you're going to school events and you're coordinating this, and you're like, let me explore another side outside just being a mom or somebody's wife, right? And stuff like that. And you have to allow the person to go through the process of exploration because, you know, I always say as a mother develops, so does the child. As your wife also develops and is happy, so does she pour back into the relationship, and so does the man also pour back into the relationship. And that's quite important. And I think most of the time is people see change as abandonment. I used to do this all the time with you, and you abandon me. And especially if you don't have a life of your own, then it's like you're sitting there twiddling your thumb, waiting for your wife to come back. I'll give you an example. So with my late dad, my late dad used to work for South African football. So he used to travel a lot, you know, before he retired. So he had plenty of a life and so forth and whatever. And then he retired. And what happened to him was that as he had this life because of the fact that he was all over the world and so forth, my mom also had to keep herself busy. And she found, you know, church, this and this and this. And then this man retires. I swear to you, once a week I used to get a call, Dudu, you know your mom left this house at 10 in the morning. And then now it's 3 o'clock and she's not back. Because this guy
doesn't have much to do
outside his job, did not build a life for himself. And now he was just looking at his wife like, you're my bestie, you know. And that's quite important, you know.
Sure, yeah, that it is. 8 minutes before 12 o'clock. We'll come back with more of your calls and WhatsApps.
Relationship issues
Relationship talk.
on 702.
5 minutes before 12 o'clock.
Hi, Clement. Very interesting conversation that we are having here. I'm a 31-year-old woman and I am very intentional with my dating life. I'm actually from a divorced parent household, and I think it's probably one of the best decisions that my parents did for themselves as well as us as their kids. I run a very strict program, as they would say on social media, and reason being is because I do not see myself, you know, going through a divorce one day. That's not personally something that I want for myself, but I mean, you can't predict these things. I got a question the other day. Someone asked me, you know, if I end up alone because of my standards, my values that I seek in a partner, like how would I feel about that? And I was like, I don't mind. To be honest, I would rather be alone than be in an intense commitment, which is marriage, and be unhappy in it. So I think a lot of people just don't see themselves alone. And I think, you know, we need to start thinking about those things as well. And we will have less of these psychological challenges that we see in our world today. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Another message says, hi, Clement. I also feel trapped, but I don't want to hurt my partner. I am 55 years old and I'm married for 31 years. I feel like I wasted their time. Sometimes he suggests we should go for counseling, but I know that if we do that, then I will be free to leave him. At least the counseling will assist him to cope with my departure. It's really hard. At 55, someone feels really trapped. Another one says, Clement, I've been married for 21 years. I'm 49 years old. My husband is not a bad person at all. My son is on the autistic spectrum and my teen daughter is still in school. I have come to a point of my life where I really am okay to be on my own. I don't want to remarry. I battle with the leash around my neck. It's such a difficult decision. I cannot say for sure if I'm still in love. The last one says, good morning, Clement. This is so triggering. I left at 48, divorced at 54. After 30 years of marriage, my children are independent. I am slowly rebuilding alone. This season is the worst, though. I do miss the warmth of my family, traveling together. It's only holidays that amplify that loneliness. Sure. So yeah, that's some of the realities people are facing. Dudu Nhlabathi-Madonsela, thank you so much for guiding us through such an important conversation. She's a relationship coach. It's now 3 minutes before 12.